This is the story of the one. As a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility, he knows keeping the line up and running is a top priority. That's why he chooses Grainger. Because when a drive belt gets damaged, Grainger makes it easy to find the exact specs for the replacement product he needs. And next day delivery helps ensure he'll have everything in place and running like clockwork. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I haven't listened to anything you've said in the last 20 seconds.
Damn it, Trevor.
Oh, God, I hate you so much.
Well, it's you. We can cross off the reading.
I watch almost everything, and the majority of it is terrible.
What is this podcast about?
My recorder keeps turning off.
Damn it, Trevor. Welcome back to No Win Scenario. It is 2024. Trevor, so good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Don, and it's so good to see you.
So good to see you. It's been weeks since I saw you. What have you been up to?
It's been wonderful, wonderful weeks since I've seen you. Having you absent from my life, I feel like I've grown as a person. I feel more opportunities have come my way. I feel that the depression that I suffer from was magically lifted. I kind of wonder.
Let's be honest, you and I were both sick laying in bed for most of this break.
Yeah, I was pretty sick. I was very sick, and I've got that lingering cough and nose stuff, so this is fun.
Yeah, well, we're back.
We're back.
We've got some great guests lined up for season 2. Can you believe we made season 2 happen? Look at that.
I can't believe it.
So before we get on with our special guest, anything you've been watching, reading, loving? Nothing good. No one cares. No one cares.
I missed a lot because I was sick.
You recommended Monarch to me. That's been kind of fun.
Yeah, and I bailed on it because I thought it sucked after 4 episodes. It started out great, then I bailed.
I don't know if it started out great. It was promising.
No, you're fine. Right. It didn't start it. It started out fine.
It's fine. I got to say, For All Mankind, solid.
Really, because I've heard both good things and bad things. I'm about to start it.
I love it.
Yeah, I need to finish The Crown. I need to finish Fargo. I need to finish The Curse. I need to finish the final season of Letterkenny, and then I'll get to that. I'll get to For All Mankind. Audience, even though we've edited the breakout, Don literally just walked away from the podcast, walked away from his desk, barked orders at his minions. I heard one of them cry as they walked away. I was so
bored by you, Trevor. I was so bored by you.
What have you been able to watch?
Not much.
Oh, and do you know what time it is, Don? Because I don't care.
It's too early in the year. It's too early in the year for this.
I don't care what you watch. You know what time it is, Don? It's time for Trevor's Tangent. Okay, real quick.
Well, let's remind people of the rules here, Trevor.
The rules is that I get my own tangent. This is a new... every time we do an episode of the podcast, this is a new part of the format. I'm just going to interrupt, break away, talk about something that might not have anything to do with science fiction at all. And the beautiful thing about it is that Dawn can't say a word.
Do this,
not a single word.
Like we're losing ad revenue right now by you speaking.
Trevor's Tangent. Okay, real quick. Here is my top 10 list of movies I saw in 2023. Now, the best film that I saw in 2023 has actually been delayed until 2024. So that is Evil Does Not Exist by Ryusuke Hamaguchi, the director of Drive My Car, which was nominated for a bunch of Oscars last year. It's a masterpiece. When it comes out later this year, everybody sees it. Everybody please see it. Number 10, Beau is Afraid by Ari Aster. Great film. Number 9, available on Netflix, The Killer by David Fincher. Number 8, shot right here in Boston, The Holdovers by Alexander Payne. Number 7, Past Lives, directed by Celine Song. Number 6, John Wick Chapter 4, directed by Chad Stahelski.
I've never seen any John Wicks. Should I?
Shut the hell up. Number 5, the best science fiction film of the year, Godzilla -1 by Takashi Yamazaki. Number 4.
Should we see that black and white or color? Because I know they're re-releasing it.
You should see it in color, and you should shut the hell up. Number 4, best horror film of the year, El Conde by the Chilean director Pablo Larraín. Incredible film. Number 3, Priscilla by Sofia Coppola. Actually, number 2 is the best horror film of the year. That is Birth, Rebirth, a directorial debut by Laura Moss. It's kind of a contemporary twist on the Frankenstein story. Best horror film of the year and most impressive directorial debut I've seen in a while. And at number 1 on Netflix right now, December by director Todd Haynes. Kind of a retelling, sort of the Mary Kay Letourneau story with a twist. One of the most bonkers, courageous films I've seen in quite a while. That right there is my top 10 films of 2023. Go on, my lovelies, and watch my films that I recommend. And that is all for Trevor's Tangent. One more time. Trevor's Tangent. 2 more times. Trevor's Tangent. Trevor's Tangent.
Wow.
Did
Trevor.
you see any of those films?
No.
God, you're pathetic.
I will see Godzilla.
And you want me to see The Creator, which I want to watch it, but I just can't get motivated.
It's worth seeing in the movie theater if it's still out somewhere. If it's still available somewhere, probably not.
It's on Hulu right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay. I got
what was okay about it? I mean,
it was a fine sci-fi movie. It was not worth all the hype. I mean, we were hearing all the hype because of the cameras and all that stuff. I thought it was noisy and cheap and stuff. It was fine.
You thought because they shot it on the Sony FX3 that it looked cheap?
In a way. I mean, there's a certain style, which was fine. Yeah. I try not to think about what cameras they shoot a film on.
Right.
That's all I kept hearing about. It was fine. What
about the story? I heard the story lifts from a lot of things, Blade Runner and anime.
It's nothing super original, but that's all.
I hear it's kind of racist.
Interesting.
Did you get that feeling?
Honestly, I was just looking at all the noise in the image most of the time. I didn't really focus on the story. I can't really remember most of it.
The noise in the image was so distracting that you couldn't even pick up on the racism. I gotta say,
it's been a while. Like, it's been months and months, so it's been quite some time. I do appreciate you not putting Leave the World Behind on your list. Did you see that on Netflix yet?
I did see Leave the World Behind on Netflix, and I'm a big fan of Sam Esmail, especially his show that nobody saw, which I thought was one of his best works, is called Homecoming. Okay. Which I think has Julia Roberts' best performance. I actually think Julia Roberts and Sam Esmail are perfect. He brings things out of her that she's never done in her career.
I thought she did great. All the actors were fine. Strange film though.
Strange film, over stylized, but that's Sam Esmail.
It didn't ever pay off a lot of stuff, like the animals, and I don't want to get spoil anything for anyone, but like there was a bunch of things that they could pay off. I liked the setup, but it was like 2.5 hours to get through the setup, and then that was it.
Even though it was an obvious special effect, I thought the barge coming up on the beach was an incredible segment
and unique. You don't see that a lot.
Yeah. I was like, man, I'd love to see that. This is what I would have loved to have seen that on the big screen. And you know what? I will say this, even though it didn't make my top 10 of the year or even my honorable mentions list, which I spared all of you of, I will say this. It had the most honest scene of any movie I saw this year. And that honesty is that when you are a media nerd like I am, and you have Julia Roberts in your house and it's the end of the world, you don't do any preparation. You don't start, saving water or, canning or preserving food. Instead, you take her to see your vinyl collection. That is the most honest moment of any film I saw in 2023.
And then you dance. And then you
laughed so hard. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I would
should be doing. Yeah. Well, it's a commentary on certain class of people, I think. But I am enjoying For All Mankind. I think if you haven't seen it, you should watch all seasons.
I enjoy the show very much, and I'm looking forward. This is the final season, right?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. I think we're at the final episode. I hope it's not the final season.
Okay. And what year does this one?
This is the current season?
Yeah, is this 86, 85?
Or 2004, maybe, something like that.
Oh, really? Wow.
I think they're, actually, I don't know, but they're on Mars and And no, it's a lot of Star Trek folks that are, involved in the show. And it's interesting. It's like basically how you get to Star Trek or how you get to the Expanse, which is interesting.
Right.
It's two different ways that the show could essentially go.
Yeah.
Because they had the strike happening, and that's an interesting kind of like setup for what happens many years later with the Expanse or not.
Right.
But I think it's a more hopeful show than where that would head, where that precursor would be, that type of story.
Don is actually really happy. I texted him one night and I told him that I begrudgingly started watching Lower Decks.
Oh my God.
I'm only a couple episodes in, and
tell me.
I
love it.
I like it. It's funny. Listen. This is not
every season.
This is not a fair comparison at all. It's probably not even correct. It is I'm going to tell you right now, it's not even fair. I feel like even though the humor isn't similar at all, I just feel like an executive saw how well Rick and Morty was doing and was like, let's do that with Star Trek. And that right away put me off of it.
I had no interest in a cartoon version of Star Trek. I don't watch Prodigy.
Neither did I. When I first heard it was announced, I was like, terrible idea.
Why would you do this? It's like, but you know what? It's a love letter to the fans. And it just, every season, it just more and more, such a love letter to the fans. It's so funny, so smart. My kid and I enjoy watching it. The crossover episode with Strange New Worlds, I don't think you've seen that one yet.
I saw the Strange New Worlds episode where it crosses over.
Yeah. So
I'm holding off on watching the last 2 episodes of Strange New Worlds so we can talk about it here.
Oh, let's do the Subspace Rhapsody. Oh, we should do that next time.
Yeah, I have not watched I've held off on the musical episodes so that we can.
We're going to do that. We're going to watch that. We'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah, fantastic.
Amazing. Well,
I will say this, audience. Don is very, very passionate about Lower Decks, and I'm like not being insulting. And after a while, I just had to break down and be like, well, if he enjoys it this much, I might as well give it a shot. Like even though I told him to go see Godzilla -1, he won't watch it. I told him again to watch Evangelion. Oh, wait, that's what I did. I watched the first Evangelion rebuild movie, even though some people have said don't even bother. And you know what? I liked it. So it's basically, these are movie retellings of the series with a lot of changes. And I watched part 1. I still have 2, 3, and 4 to go. And I liked part 1 quite a bit.
Well, Trevor, one of these days I'll get around to it. And one of these days you'll get around to Babylon 5. But
I already started Babylon 5. I watched like 6 or 7 episodes. We've discussed this on this podcast many times.
You got to watch the entire thing. It's a novel.
Oh my God.
Anyway, but yesterday was the 31st anniversary of Star Trek Deep Space Nine premiering.
What?
Yesterday was the 31st anniversary of Star Trek Deep Space Nine premiering.
Deep Space Nine?
Yes.
I've never ever heard of Deep Space Nine. Is that a Star Trek thing?
Well, Trevor, that's going to make our interview coming up very awkward because coming up we have author.
Okay. Let's go back and redo that part. You're right.
Oh no, we're keeping this in. We're keeping this in.
No, that's not fair.
Derek Tyler Attico. I hope
listen, I saw the pilot of Deep Space Nine when it aired. I saw that was the one where you see Sisko jettisoned from the ship because it has to do with that Borg episode from Next Generation. Where is that the one where Picard gets kidnapped and everybody gets killed?
Why are you the host of a sci-fi show if you're asking these basic?
Yeah, because it was 90 years ago. Okay.
You're old enough. You're older than me. Not like it was your childhood. It was my childhood.
I saw the pilot, and the pilot was very good. And I continued with the episodes, and I just after that, and I realized it just wasn't for me. I was very young. I was young. I wanted more. I wanted more action. And Deep Space Nine was I have a feeling as an adult, yeah. I would probably find it far more appealing and, like you, possibly think it's the best Star Trek show ever made. I mean, that's your thing, right? Deep Space Nine is the best.
That is the one.
No. Deep Space Nine to you is the best Star Trek show ever made, right? Yes. That's your whole thing. Yes.
Now, I think Strange New Worlds is a great show. I love Next Generation. I love the original. Discovery I watched and I enjoy. So I really don't have anyone that I particularly don't like. But Deep Space Nine was the one that really hit home for me the most. I think I just showed my daughter, who's just 9. She saw Duet for the first time, which I know means nothing to you, but to some of our listeners will know how impactful that episode was in the first season. But I do think, Trevor, if you got to the last 2 to 3 seasons, you would like it, because then it became a longer story.
Okay. I mean, maybe I'll do that, because I'm getting, Strange New Worlds, has got me excited about Trek again.
Yeah.
So, that's now let's kind of extrapolate on this. What is it about Deep Space Nine? Like, is it the level of writing? Is it the cast? Is it the directing? Which, the directing in TV those days really
wasn't that good. It was still soap opera-y TV. It's still, it looks dated, a little bit. So it wasn't that. It was the stories. It was that the characters, it was not black and white. It's that they didn't reset, every episode. Like, it was, long form storytelling, later on more so. It was much more interesting. They had to deal with stuff in one location. It wasn't just the monster of the week or the bad guy of the week. And there was a lot of things going on there, and there was a conflict within the characters, again, according to modern standards, it would feel normal. If it was updated, the direction and the look and feel. But back then it was rare.
Now,
were so great. I mean, such great characters they had.
Yeah, I'm honestly just asking. I'm not trying to, insult Deep Space Nine, but did it have enough of? I remember reading that the ratings for the show weren't necessarily there.
It was there. Yeah.
It was just enough. Is that what it was? It was just enough to keep going.
Yeah, I believe so.
And what was that? Was it because of the syndication that they were able to find enough viewers to keep it going?
I think so. But part of the problem too is that, DS9 and Next Gen overlap by a year.
Yep.
And then Voyager came out and became
a
flagship, right? For, I guess, was it PTN? I'm sorry.
Right.
Whatever it was.
I remember starting Voyager and being far more excited.
Voyager. People were really more excited about Voyager because it was it's like the new Next Generation kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it kind of got sandwiched and stuck in a way. And, it did take a few years for it to like really step into gear. There were some really weird, bad episodes, but Next Gen had a horrible first couple seasons.
Right.
Minus a few episodes. So I think it never had the chance to like fully get out there because people just came on to Voyager and kind of skipped it over, or they felt it was too dark at the time, things like that. But why should we talk about it? Let's get Derek out here. So
you know what? Let me, you can edit this out if you want. I just want to ask a couple more questions, which I believe will lead up to Derek.
Yes.
What was it about the characters, specifically Sisko, that you found far more involved? Well, I'm assuming you found far more involving than the other shows. I've always read that Deep Space Nine maybe didn't have the best characters, but had the richest characters. It had very human, very, very well developed characters.
It did. So, one of the things that was interesting about Sisko, the character of Sisko, number one, was the first African-American captain for Star Trek at the time.
Right.
But, he came into the show hating Picard, episode 1.
Right. I remember that.
He hated Picard because Picard was involved unwillingly as a Borg and, was responsible in a way for the death of his wife. And that's how the show started. So Picard was this legend, right, in the mass media. And here in the first episode, you have a character who hates him, who can't get past him, who can't get over it, who wants to quit Starfleet in the beginning.
Right.
And then he goes to this rundown, horrible space station that was created by aliens with a population that just got away from their oppressors. Everything's a mess.
Right.
And so it was rich to begin with. He's a single father. There you go. You have a shady business guy, this Ferengi Quark, running a bar. You've got a first officer who was combative, who was a former terrorist.
Right.
You've got Miles O'Brien from the Enterprise that had that continuity, who was the working man. You had
was that Colm Feore?
Colm Meaney.
Yeah, Colm Meaney. Yeah, great actor.
And you had a young doctor who was annoying at first, who really whose character and whose acting really got improved so much over the years. Eventually Worf came on for a couple of years.
Right, I remember that.
And it was just a very rich ensemble. And then they involved the Dominion, which was the big bad in the Gamma Quadrant, and that they had 2 years, 3 years of storytelling based around. And so they had big empire storytelling with the Klingon Empire, with the Cardassians falling. Much more. Garrick was a great character, Cardassian spy who you never knew what his deal was, and it just dealt with more gray issues, much more ambiguity. And there were issues with Sisko about they were going to lose the war, and he had to do something that was really not morally great, but he did it, and they won the war, and it saved those lives. And it was about tackling those challenges. Or, they went back in time to California in the quote near future. I think actually 2024. I think this is the year, and there were all these homeless encampments and stuff like that. So it was just a lot more rich storytelling, and the ensemble was great. Yeah.
So my last question, to connect from a few episodes, if I remember correctly, one of the big things about Picard season 3 was that wasn't there something from Deep Space Nine?
The changelings. So in Picard season 3, I freaked out because basically
audience, he really freaked out. I get this call from him. He's going off, blah, blah, blah. This is the most amazing thing. I couldn't have cared less.
I just appreciated two things. I appreciated a lot from season 3, and I've been rewatching it, and I'm actually enjoying it now. My 4th rewatch of the season, I think.
Oh my God.
One is that they brought the changelings back, so there was the nod to Odo, and the changelings were one of the 2 big bads of the season.
Right.
That was it. And then they also brought back Lauren, who was from Next Generation, but she was the actress was offered the role of the first officer for Deep Space Nine. She turned it down originally, but there was that connection to the Dominion, which was a really good enemy for Deep Space Nine.
Right.
Yeah, because so I loved it. So everyone, stay tuned, because coming up we have the author of the Autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, Derek Tyler Attico. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Grainger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. All so that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Lowe's knows that free makes everything better. That's why our rewards members get free standard shipping on the things they need and want, starting at Silver Key status every day. Savings for rewards members add up fast, so why wait? Join for free today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Not available in Alaska and Hawaii. Exclusions and more terms apply. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/shipping terms. Subject to change.
I am Derek Tyler Attico. I am an author, science fiction author, essayist, and amateur trying to go professional photographer. I've been writing since 2005, and I've currently written the Autobiography of Benjamin Sisko. I am a 2-time winner of the Star Trek Strange New Worlds short story anthology.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for joining us. I'm a fan. I've got your book right here. Trevor prevented me from having it proudly displayed next to my desk over here. But I got to read it over the sort of
and that was no offense to you, Derek. It just seemed so shameful and obvious that he had a position there.
I want to sell this man's book. I want to sell this man's book.
Yeah, well, then put it. Then if we're doing this for sales, then put it back.
Well, Derek, it just happened to be yesterday was the 31st anniversary. I saw your post on Twitter, X. What great timing! 31st anniversary of the Deep Space Nine pilot. So here's my big question for you before we get into the book. Why Deep Space Nine for you, just in general? Like, what is it about it?
Oh, that's a great question. Like, why do I like it? Well, I mean, I was there in '93. I was there in '93. When it premiered, and I still remember the emotions that it brought out watching those first 3 minutes. First of all, it was nothing like it was nothing like a Star Trek show or even a Star Trek film. It opened with these it almost a very so much like a Star Wars fashion with this preamble coming up on the screen informing us what had happened, and then it opened right up into Wolf 359. I was like, what's happening? And we get introduced to these characters as Wolf 359. In the first minute, we see Benjamin Sisko. He loses his ship. He loses his crewmates. He loses his family, his wife, and that's how it opens. You know, and I was all in. I was all in from that moment on. I was certainly all in. Later on in that episode, the premiere episode of Emissary, as a young man watching it, and as an aspiring at the time writer watching it, I thought it was just brilliant that the writers of Deep Space Nine used baseball to explain linear time to aliens. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant, and that always stuck with me. And Star Trek, in a lot of ways, has always been a not just something that I've always enjoyed and for entertainment, but like a teaching tool for me personally. And so I was all in. There was nothing you could say. I dove in. I mean, some episodes, you know, at the first season, they were finding their footing, but I was all in. And the themes, the characters, the ideas of trauma and religion, and just seeing the Star Trek universe from a different perspective, other than the Federation and Starfleet, I think was just brilliant.
Yeah, I was telling Trevor right before you popped on the call here that I remember watching, I think I was in high school, and then when I had the same reaction to the pilot, and here you have this captain who's pissed off at a hero. You know, I grew up with Picard and loved him, and here's someone who hates him. It was like, what the heck? Do we like this guy, or we agree with him? And then getting to the episode Duet, and which I just recently watched with my daughter, Duet, where, you know, there's I don't even know how to get into that episode, but there's so many parallels with Nazis, and I mean, a million ways to go with that, but and how impactful in seeing that episode. I mean, like, wow, this show could really be something, and it just developed, I think, so well over the years. Yeah. So I certainly share that with you. So it's great. It's the anniversary of that show. And I don't know if you saw floating around Twitter, just the side here, there's someone did a title creation for, you saw this, for like a modern Star Trek Emissary. And I'm like, oh my God, I want this show so bad. I'll take my money.
I want that show. Yes.
From the title credits. We love Trevor and I were talking about Star Trek Picard title credits being awesome. This is an opening sequence for a show that, like, whoever made those credits, I'm like, that's the show I want. You know, it'll never get made.
I want to do a psychological profile on all you DS9 fans, because you guys are all like, you're all in the same circle somewhere, I swear.
Well, maybe we're New Yorkers. You're right. You're from New York. I'm from New York. Or you live in New York.
Right.
It's maybe we're cultured, Trevor. We're cultured. We understand art.
Star Trek Emissary would be phenomenal, because it could be the name or the title Emissary could be a double entendre for so many other things. I mean, don't get me started, man. I mean, you just yeah.
All right, well, let's jump into the book that just came out. So the autobiography. Why an autobiography? Why not the story of? Is it, you know, other authors are doing like the autobiography of Kirk and Picard. Is that something that came down from the publisher, or was this?
Well, Titan Books, who is a phenomenal publisher, they've done the autobiography. They started a series called The Autobiography of, and it's a Star Trek series. And they started with the autobiography of James T. Kirk, which is a phenomenal book. And then they followed that up. I believe they followed that one up with, I'm not sure about the order, but I believe they followed that one up with Picard. And then they did Spock, which I also have. And
he's got a nice bookshelf behind him, everyone. I'm very jealous of all.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
lots
to
of
the
books and toys behind him.
Every book that he refers to, he just turns around and grabs it off the shelf.
It's
all Star Trek, but there's a Millennium Falcon hiding there that's thrown off the whole. The whole thing is off. It's all Star Trek except one Millennium Falcon. It's confusing to me, but it's okay.
No, it's okay. We have equal. We have equal franchise
love for everybody. Love for everybody.
Love for everybody. Right?
Hear that, Trevor? You can love people.
Very hard for me. Very hard.
um, so Titan started the autobiography series, and I'm starting with the captains, of course. And so they did Kirk, they did Spock, they did Picard, they did Janeway. Um, yeah, they did. They actually skipped Cisco and went to Janeway. And so a lot of people were like wondering, well, if you're going in order, it should be Kirk, Spock, Picard, then it should be Cisco, and then Janeway. Why did he get skipped? And so some people were like, well, what's going on? All of these are great. I'm very fortunate that when Titan Books they have always wanted to do the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko. Part of the reason that they skipped the autobiography of Sisko was the fact that when we last see him in the series, he is actually in the wormhole, which is like a 30-year-old or 20-something-year-old spoiler. But he's he's in the wormhole, and so it was like, well, how are we going to do an autobiography of someone that's stuck like that in time and space? And so basically, what happened was someone on some podcast was talking about this and how it was skipped, and it was on Twitter. My name was mentioned as a name being floated as someone that could write the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko. Titan got wind of that. They read one of my earlier Star Trek short stories called The Dream in a Dream, which is a Benny Russell story, which was published by Pocket Books in 2016 for the 50th anniversary of Star Trek. And they liked that. And then from there, they said, oh, you know what? You'd be a good fit for the autobiography. They spoke to me. We talked. I told them my ideas for the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, and it was off to the races.
Oh.
So that's how that happened. Yeah.
That easy, right?
Yeah, that easy. Yeah.
All you aspiring writers out there, it's that easy. Yeah. The publisher comes right to you.
Well, that brings me to my question. Were they all about your ideas right away, or did they have their own ideas that they came in? You tried to meld them. Was it a constant notes process? Was it, let's see the first 3 chapters and see where this is going kind of thing?
Trevor, that's an excellent question. First I should say George Sanderson is the managing editor, and he's the individual that I spoke with initially. We had a great first conversation with Titan Books, and the idea initially was that it was going to be a book written by Jake Sisko, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And in the show, in Deep Space Nine, we know that Jake actually writes a book that's kind of autobiographical called Anselm. Yeah. And so the idea was to write that and then have elements of not only Jake's life, but his father's life. Mm-hmm. And I thought that's a great idea, and I think that book should be done. But what I expressed to George is that all of these other great books that Titan has put out have the autobiographies of the captains in their own words.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I have an idea where we can do it, and we can do it with Sisko's voice and Sisko's own words. And my framing device is nothing that's really, in all honesty, it's nothing really new. I'm really steeped in the classics. I'm religious, so I've been reading the Bible since I was a kid. And if you look at mythology, if you look at religion, the gods or God has always spoken to man from some place, whether it be heaven or Olympus or wherever the gods reside. So the idea of Ben speaking or sending a message to his son, that's nothing new. It's just new in perhaps in Star Trek, terms. So I just came up with the idea of Ben sending a message to Jake as soon as he gets to the Celestial Temple, because in the last episode of the show, he never speaks to Jake. He speaks to Cassidy, his wife, but he never speaks to Jake. And in the autobiography, his intention is to speak to Jake first. But, and this is a little bit of a spoiler for the book, it's fine at this point, but because he's just gotten to the Celestial Temple in this kind of like permanency where he's at, he's still a little wonky with time and feeling things out. So even though it's the first thing he does, it does not get to Jake until a few years later.
And one of the things, I'm glad you did this because, one of the things with the finale of Deep Space Nine, which I loved, it was sad. Next Generation, Voyager all ended on a high note.
Exactly.
Nine was sad. I mean, I actually wanted to ask you about this, just the criticism of some people, I don't agree with it because I have a different view, but some criticism of the show, the finale, was that he abandoned his newborn child, his son, his wife, which wasn't good for, at the time there was a lot of like racial implications about why are we showing this African-American man doing this. Now, the flip side is he, quote, died a hero, saving everybody, but because of his alien background, he's in the temple. And what I like about what you did is this kind of closes that. So it's not like he just disappeared and that's it. I mean, yes, there's been other stories and novels and things you can read, but that element of talking to his son and closing that and not ending that finale, I think for me was a great move on your part.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And I listened or actually watched an interview with Ira Stephen Burr, showrunner, and of course one of the writers for Star Trek: Deep Space Nine, and he expressed that it was never the intention to have a play on the fact that there's an African American man leaving his son. The writers of Deep Space Nine, their intention was that it would be a mythological elevation.
Right. This captain became a god, right?
This captain to become a god, right?
I've seen the same thing, yeah. So
right.
now we are making a captain a god, yeah.
Exactly. That was always the intention, and so I believe Ira Stephen Bear said that Avery Brooks spoke to him and said, well, it also will look like this thing, and so that's where they changed the line where Sisko says, I'll be back. I don't know. Yesterday or a year from now, right? But I will be back. And so, me as a writer and understanding all of that and taking all of this in, said, okay, I don't, I'm not actually taking him out of the wormhole, but I can actually give the reader some insight into what he is thinking, he being Ben, is thinking as soon as he gets there. And the first thing he's thinking is, this message is for my son. Here I am. I'm going to send this message to my son actually before I speak to Cassidy. But because it's not linear and because things are a little wonky, it actually happens in a reverse way.
And it's great. I appreciate that so much because I think, some of the other stories that you can go on and read that people have written and his exploits after, it takes away from what the show itself intended to do. And I think this holds true to that show. Along those lines, I wanted to ask you, two parts here. Like, how did you get yourself inside Sisko's head to write the story? And why was it important for you to tell Sisko's story?
Oh, wow. That's a Don, those are great questions.
Eric, I'm a professional here. I'm a professional sci-fi.
I see that.
Low budget.
I see that.
Trevor's shaking his head in disgust. Yeah.
Stop placating his ego, Derek. It is not good for your career. It is not good for anything.
Well, I'm going to cater to both of you guys. So yes. Get ready. Yes. He said yes.
My favorite guest.
So wait, I forgot the question.
How did you get into Sisko's head, and why?
How did I get into Sisko's head? Right.
And why is it important for you to tell Sisko's story?
And why is it important? Well, getting into Sisko's head wasn't that difficult. In 2016, like I said, I wrote this story, "The Dreamer and the Dream." It was a challenge back then because it's Benjamin Sisko. The one thing I learned from writing that short story in 2016 is that Mr. Avery Brooks, he's a phenomenal actor and performer. Yep. And what he has done with the character of Ben Sisko, he does not bring to any other performance. So it's not like I could watch any of his earlier performances and use like mannerisms or anything like that for a younger Ben Sisko. I just couldn't do it. The only thing I really was able to use from Deep Space Nine was the episode that I think we all love, is In the Pale Moonlight. which is basically a 40 plus minutes of Benjamin Sisko just speaking pretty much to the camera. And that episode really allowed me to get his cadence and his the way he speaks down, and then to just basically deconstruct that. Because Benjamin Sisko, he always says throughout the 7 years of the show, he says, "I'm not a writer. My son is the writer." And Ben is very blue collar, plain spoken, but he has these moments of eloquence as opposed to writing someone like Picard, who is thespian and writing formal and Shakespeare and supposed to be, has this whole other side to him that Sisko just doesn't have. So I can be more eloquent with Picard than I can be with Sisko. So I would drop moments in with Sisko, which is what we are used to in the show. Sisko's very plain spoken, but then he'll say things, he'll have those moments like, fortune favors the bold, or he'll say things and we're like, oh, wow. So that was doing that. And then, so coming back to him for the autobiography wasn't that difficult. What was difficult, I think, was writing him as a child so that I could deconstruct and then start to drop elements of that.
Yeah, that was my next question. Like, how did you choose his voice as a kid? And you spend a fair bit of the book with him as a child, and part of it is how do you find his voice? Is anything drawn from you or your experience or people you know? But also the choice, like he's practically future Amish in a way, where he doesn't know anything about replicators and transporters and communicators. He's and that is not. I mean, that was such an interesting choice, because I don't think that ever came up in the show other than his love of cooking and his father's opinions. But you really went all in on that. So I'm curious about the decision as well as like how you found the voice of him as a child.
No, absolutely. Finding his voice. Some of it is honestly from my experiences and from me. But as a writer, I think one of the skills all writers should have and hopefully do have is the ability to know what you can use from your own personal life and what you should refrain from using from your own personal life. And for his voice, I knew that there were certain qualities that I wanted to imbue in him, and I just wanted to show a steady progression, because I want this book to be a lot about life, and family is the people that we learn from and lean on. So I have these moments in the book where Ben is learning things from his grandparents, from his father, from his mother, from his stepmother, and so slowly but surely we are building the foundation of the fully formed, balanced individual that we know as Captain Benjamin Lafayette Sisko. So I had to get there I had to show everyone to get there, which is why I spent so long in his childhood and in that part to get there. To answer, there's two other parts of the questions I remember, but to explain why I took the whole route of almost like a future Amish, a lot of that came from Joseph Sisko. Joseph in the show, he doesn't like replicators, and
he doesn't travel.
He doesn't travel. Yeah. And so I had to really deconstruct that. And as I started to work on the outline, I realized this was not just an autobiography for Ben, but it started to become an autobiography for his family, for his father, for New Orleans, for Louisiana, for Earth. It became a story of telling. I was a way for me to tell a lot of different stories. And so then
I was just going to say, like, and kudos to you, because I think a lot of writers wouldn't have done that work or that process. And that's one of the things that was surprising about the book, is that you did delve into New Orleans and his family and all that, because, most people would say, oh, his father is cranky like Bones, doesn't want to be on a transport, doesn't travel, end of story. It's just a quirk. But you added so much to, I hate to say Star Trek canon, because Trevor hates the word canon.
Oh my God, stop.
But you added too much. You added another element to that world that we don't really see in the shows or movies, versus like,
Well, yeah, man, go big or go home, man. I mean, don't. I mean, if I'm going to get a Star Trek book and have that honor and opportunity, I'm going to swing for the fences, right? I mean, I'm
absolutely.
Not just going to,
yeah,
right,
yeah, absolutely,
right, and try and do justice. I mean, and also it's not I mean, not that a Star Trek book is by any means something that's small, but this is on top of that. This is the 30th anniversary,
Right.
of Deep Space Nine. So there are certain expectations, right?
Right.
So I wanted to meet them and hopefully exceed them. So I looked to Joseph, and Joseph opened incredible doors for me, because then I realized through Joseph, I could explain a lot of things about Louisiana, about Earth. I could talk about the African American experience. I could talk about the Black experience in the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th centuries. And because Joseph has a lot of things going on in the Sisko family, until up to Joseph, has a certain amount of trauma that's going on in the family for not wanting to leave Earth, and why they don't want to leave Earth. And I think Ben and his father have a really interesting conversation. He says where Joseph doesn't want him to leave Earth, and Ben is like, I have to go for the same reasons you don't want me to go, or the reasons I have to leave. So Joseph opened a lot of doors for me. And I'm very thankful to the writers of Deep Space Nine for the characters that they started and they laid out, because without that, it just gave me so much material to just dive and delve into. To go back to one of your first parts of this question, what does it mean to me?
Yeah.
It means everything. It means everything. I mean, as a writer, it's a hell of an opportunity. Let's just be honest. It's a hell of an opportunity. This is also my first novel, so that's right. That's amazing. As a Black man, to be able to write the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko is just great. It's a lot of fun. It's dope, but it was also, to be really honest with you guys, it's also challenging, because I also wanted to write something that would stand up to scrutiny within the Black community. To be quite honest, because Benjamin Sisko is someone that we all love. It's also someone that is very much loved in the Black community. So it has this character, and this autobiography has to meet a lot of different has to meet scrutiny on a lot of different levels.
So that pressure is there the whole time you're writing it? Is that just lurking in the background, or is that really at the forefront of everything you're writing when you go into it?
Be honest with you, it was really there at the very beginning, and I was like, and I had a conversation with myself. I was like, you know what, man, you got to put all that out of your head, because if you start thinking about that with every word, with every day, it'll just drown you. So I was like, you know what, this is just another project, and these are characters these are characters you've literally lived with, and you should get this project done. And so I just turned that part off. And I watched In the Pale Moonlight about 4 or 5 times back to back. And then I never watched another episode of Deep Space Nine. And then I wrote the autobiography.
No kidding. No kidding.
So I have a question. This will actually be a good question compared to the what's being lobbed at you by Don.
Stop persecuting me.
So we talked about Don asked a question. It was a good question about getting into the voice of Sisko. What I'm curious about is, as an author, you have your own prose. Now you're writing an autobiography from a fictional character's point of view, who must have their own prose to writing their own autobiography. Was that something you were conscious of? Was that something that you had to map out? Not just how would this person say, dialogue, but how would this person write their own book?
You got it, Trevor. That's exactly right. I mean,
I'm really good. I'm really good at this, Derek. I compared to Don, I'm really good.
No comment there. I think you both. I think you both are great. But you're absolutely right. To give you a little history about just me personally, I come from a film background.
I like you already.
See, so the first thing I ever wrote at 16 was a screenplay. It was actually a Star Wars screenplay. Yep. And I was thankful and lucky enough that it won an award from the Dramatists Guild of America.
Oh, congrats! That's great.
Thank you. So I've always been very theme film themed, and film thinking. And I remember like high school and college when I took some acting classes and I learned about Stanislavski and method acting. And so even then I was like, I didn't want to be an actor, but I was like, oh, this could be great to incorporate into writing,
Right.
Method writing. I don't know if anyone's ever used that term, but method writing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I realized that, just as an actor puts on different skins to become different people. In many ways, writers have to do the same thing, even if they don't consciously realize it. I think most writers do consciously realize it. We have to do that when we're writing with different voices and different point of views of different characters. And this is definitely the case with the autobiography. And also, to have it in first person, and in first person from this type of character, it was a challenge. I'm not going to say it wasn't. It was a challenge, but once I got my head around it, I was good. It took a minute to get my head around it, and it took a minute to get my head around the child version of Sisko.
Right.
Once that happened.
Were there any moments when you got far into a part or into a section and you said, and you maybe second guess or maybe just flat out said to yourself, Sisko would not have written it this way?
Oh.
And you felt you had to go back, or do you feel that you were in the pocket the whole time in terms of both his voice and his written prose?
Honestly, yeah, no, there was never a moment when I said, where I said, no, he wouldn't have written it this way. I had to rewrite. If anything, I was maybe a little bit slower and more intentional to make sure I had it the right way. There was maybe one or two times, if I'm being really honest, I would like write a paragraph or two late at night, and I'd be like, this is just not working. I think if I remember correctly, it was when Ben is talking about Picard and how he felt about Wolf 359. And I remember it was like late one night. It was like maybe 2, 3 in the morning, and I was writing, and I wanted to get that done. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't resonate with me, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. And for me, it has to be organic. It has to feel right, because my attitude is, if it feels right to me, if it feels organic to me, then I'm presuming it's going to feel that way to the reader, right? And so I remember I wrote like maybe a page or half a page, and I was like, and I just got rid of it. And I was going to go to bed, and then I was like, I think I did watch on YouTube that tete with Picard and Sisko. And he's just seething. Sisko is seething in that moment when he first meets Picard after Wolf 359, and then I realized that, when you hate someone, the first thing you have to do is you have to let go. The first person you save when you let go of hate is yourself. And once I watched that and realized that, I was like, oh, I got it now. I got it. And then I wrote that in like 20 minutes and went to bed.
Nice.
I woke up the next morning and I read it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is good. And I don't think I ever went back to it after that.
It's an interesting opportunity, and I don't know if it's an opportunity, a privilege, or a disservice to you or any writer in your position. There's 100 hours of television in this character's voice. And so that's a lot.
Right.
Like, in a way, to me, it seems like, oh, it's great, but then it's like, oh, a lot's been said already. A lot's been done, so it's an interesting thing. I do want to ask you a couple of specific things from the book. I want to get you to. The first is just, why Deep Space Nine? Again, I was Trevor in his ignorance. I was trying to explain why it was so meaningful. But on page 13 of your book, I'm going to read a little thing you wrote here. I don't like writing in books. I find it disrespectful. But when I read it, I circled it. I said, oh my God, this is the whole thing. So it says, the truth is that everyone wants a piece of Benjamin Sisko. The Bajoran people want to preserve the sanctity and deeds of the emissary. The cult of the Pa race wanted to file everything the emissary stood for. Starfleet wants their captain back. Me, this is being Jake, I just want to see my father. And the truth is, no one will get what they want. And for me, again, that hit home for me. That was like, I'm like, oh my God, this guy, he gets DS9. This is it. This is why it's not next gen, why it was so different at the time. There's no perfect endings. And I don't know, that just stood out to me like as like, at the moment. But
yeah.
I'm just curious about that one little bit and like where that came from and, from you. And, I saw you nodding and started reading it. So I was curious if that was a little special moment too for you as a writer, or as the writer.
Thank you. No, that was that I don't know if that whole speech, but most of that speech was actually in the outline. Because you have to present an outline to of course to your editor and to CBS before you get the okay to write word one. And so that was in because I would write like little as I felt it, I would just as I was writing the outline, pieces of dialogue would just come to me, So I would just write little moments of dialogue and drop it into the outline, and that was one of them. And that came from I guess being a fan, of course, of Deep Space Nine and understanding where we are today and how we all feel about Deep Space Nine. I think we all want a piece of Benjamin Sisko today, and for good or bad, we're going to get what we get. We're going to get what we get. A lot of people want an entire show. We were just talking about, it would be great to have a show called Star Trek Emissary, but I thought a lot about what Jake must be feeling with his father gone and with this man that was responsible for winning the war for the Federation and literally saving the entire Alpha Quadrant, and now he's just gone. He's gone. And the conjecture and the gossip and the rumors and what that vacuum, nature of course a vacuum. So that vacuum that Sisko leaves, what that must do, even in an upstanding civilization like the Federation, And so Jake, when he's writing that, he's a little frustrated. He's a little fed up. As he says, there's Sisko sightings. The paparazzi won't give myself and my stepmother and my new sister a rest. So you know what? None of us is going to get what we really want, but maybe that's okay.
Yeah. What's interesting too is the parallel here, Derek, like with like us super fans. So Trevor, you can go to sleep here. Us super fans and having to deal with DS9 as like the bastard child for all those years, having reboots and reshows and new things coming that they're not going to do. Plus, with the Sisko thing, like, what are your thoughts on like Avery Brooks not really engaging with the fandom? Like us as like the super fans and everyone who goes to conventions and just whatever watches stuff, all the time. We, all those actors are like royalty, but he chooses not to engage with the fandom at all.
Well, first of all, why would Avery Brooks want to talk to you, Don? I mean, really, why? Like, why? I mean, maybe that's a question you should ask yourself, Don. Why?
Let's leave me personally out of it for now, Trevor. And this segment's not your choice. No, but that parallel of Sisko being gone and everyone wanting a piece of him, and then us as fans and Avery Brooks and him not engaging, it's a crazy parallel.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I know Mr. Brooks has done some conventions. We were doing it with the other captains for a while.
But nowhere near the extent of any other.
But nowhere near the extent, and I can't speak into what, is his thoughts and feelings about Star Trek.
But it feels sad to me, Derek. It feels sad to me a little bit.
Yeah, the man is an artist. I will say this about him. The man is an artist. And so this is not the totality of his work. He's done so much work. This is not the totality of his work. This is something that he has presented to us and left us to digest and speak about and write about as we do. But he's done so much other things. So I can't begin to speak or think for him. But I know me personally, I don't always like to go back. Once I've done something, I move on from it a lot of times. I know a lot of actors, they don't watch stuff that they've done, right? I mean, we may think differently about television as opposed to film, But a lot of film actors, they will watch a movie. I mean, they will be in a movie, and then after doing the movie, they will just not watch it or talk about it. They'll do press junkets, but that's about it, you know? So who knows?
I have seen, though, in the past maybe decade, certain actors who didn't really want to contribute to the legacy of a character that was I'm going to specifically say it, Harrison Ford, for a long time.
Right.
But then I've seen this happen, that they reach a certain age and maybe realize that it's not about career anymore. It's about there's this character I did that make people very happy, and why not give that to them one more time? And I kind of wonder if Mr. Brooks would circle back to that place, as I've seen a lot of performers. They've done that in the past decade. I mean, for Harrison Ford to do a second Blade Runner movie was absolutely unheard of, because he said nothing but horrible things about the first film for 30 years.
Right.
Yeah. The difference is, even if Avery Brooks wanted to do it, Paramount's not going to fork over.
See, I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. I think they would. I think they would. Absolutely.
Trevor, we're here to talk about Derek. So
I'm just,
the beautiful thing is, though, but the beautiful thing is, you could, I mean, if there's a lot of ifs, right?
Right.
If Mr. Brooks wanted to come back, you could have him come back for one or two scenes.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to have, you can have him come back for one or two scenes.
Doesn't have to be a series.
Doesn't have to be a series. Have him come back for one or two scenes, pass the baton, say, for example, to Jake, who was also part Prophet, right? Let's not forget that. Jake is part Prophet. Jake is, if Ben is half Prophet, then Jake is quarter Prophet, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
there.
That's all there. That's all. That's canon. That's not me hypothesizing.
Right.
This is
no. I'm not getting into the canon. I'm not getting into the
start fighting.
No. I'm not getting. No. I was just saying this is a great segue. No, because both a character I want to see more of. I would have wanted to see more of, but also you mentioned Jake here. I found it, first of all, awesome, but interesting that you chose not to conclude the book with Ben Sisko in his autobiography or Jake Sisko, but you went back to Benny Russell. So, Far Beyond the Stars, I think one of the best episodes of Star Trek ever written. Sisko goes back, becomes Benny Russell, a writer who is just a tough time in America as a black man and a writer. Great episode. Why go back to Benny here? Is it just to continue that mythology of what's the dream? What's, well, you tell me. What was the rationale here? And what does Benny mean to you too?
Oh my God, you guys are asking, such great questions. I thought it was, I remember when I was writing the outline, and initially in the outline, the idea is you started with the autobiography starts with Jake, ends with Jake, and I was like, well, that's what everyone is expecting. I never like doing what everyone is expecting, and it just there wasn't really an opportunity or a way to discuss or talk about at all Far Beyond the Stars or Benny Russell within the autobiography, because it didn't make sense, and I'm not going to try and shoehorn something in just for fan service, because it doesn't make sense. But that last page, that makes sense. That then becomes an organic almost way of like, oh, wow, it becomes very meta now. And you're like, well, okay, so who's writing this? And what that also does is that continues and almost bookends the Benny Russell story now. It answers that question. And so then now I have something really organic, because now I'm closing I'm not closing, but I'm continuing threads that have been opened in Deep Space Nine. Now we know what happened with Benny. He finally did get this stuff published. This autobiography is a part of that. This is also Jake's story. This is also Ben's story. So all of that folds into itself. Yeah. And I couldn't. I had to take that opportunity and do that. And what Benny says to the reader is something that I think is very important. Something that I want to leave the reader with on the last page.
I got to ask you this, Derek. What would your reaction? I may have to cut this out. What would your reaction if they ended the show at Benny?
Oh, I know that was Ira Stephen Bear said that he actually wanted to do that.
Would have been amazing. It would have been as controversial as the Sopranos ending, I think. But I think I would have loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I wouldn't have had a problem with it. I think it would have been nuts. It would have been mind blowing.
I don't think it would have been no studio would have allowed. It would have been too gutsy.
Yeah. I think it's here's the thing. I think I would have probably, as cool and as of an idea as that is, I probably would have said no as well, because you don't want Star Trek Deep Space Nine to be the last installment of Star Trek. If it was the very last installment and you knew it was never going to be another Star Trek, then that would make sense, and you're capping it, right? But you want this to continue. So then by having Benny do that, you're saying this guy is writing it, which is cool. But by not doing that, then you still leave that door open and you leave this incredible history and mythos open to the future.
Keep going.
And you keep going. Yeah, exactly.
Even though it ended so sadly. How's been the reaction to the book? How's the fandom been? I know you've been engaging at least online with them, and what's it's only been out a little bit of time now, right? How's it been going?
It's only been out a little under about a month and a half now. It'll be 2 months on the 21st. And it's been nuts. I have to say, and nuts in a positive way. I did not expect a lot of the things that people are emailing me. One guy emailed me and said he was reading the book and inspired him to write a song. So he wrote a song.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. One lady on Facebook, she said that her she basically intimated that her father had passed away, and she said that she read the book in 4 hours, and wow. It felt like her father was right there with her reading it, and I was like, what, that's all I need. I don't need anything else. A few days ago, someone messaged me because I'm available on Facebook and Twitter and stuff.
Thank you for that, by the way. That's how we connected.
yeah, no problem. I mean,
not so easy with everybody else.
I like talking to people, so I mean, it's like, why not? And somebody messaged me a few days ago and said that they were having a problem with grief with their father passing, and the book helped them have a breakthrough. And I was like, things that you never expect. I never expected to hear, and I am eternally and sincerely, I'm humbled to hear these things. When I was writing this book, it was challenging in the sense that I was pulling from emotions that were deep within me and were heartfelt and were sincere, and they were sincere for me. I did not even really consider at the time that they would resonate so much with other people. I'm just thankful and honored that they did,
Wow, that's so nice. Yeah, I mean, that's a great segue to sort of our last bit here before we let you go. We talk a lot with all our guests about sort of the mental health challenges in their professions. And it's great to hear how the book has helped people who are suffering with trauma and things like that, but writing, right, it's a very solitary process. Just curious about sort of your experience with, keeping yourself, Trevor, help me out here with the terminology.
Well, I think there's, to follow up with what Don says, and then I've got my own question. There's, and I've seen it in all sorts of industries. There is a way of just losing yourself in it and forgetting which way is up, and empathizing with something so much that and eventually sympathizing that it takes control of you. How do you prevent from going over that cliff?
That's a great question. I for this book more than anything else I've ever written, um, I've used sense memory before.
Hmm.
Uh, but for this book, I really dug and used sense memory for particular scenes. And if I'm gonna be really honest, there were scenes that after I wrote them, I would just cry,
Hmm.
because it pulled from emotions that I haven't, um, emotions and memories that I haven't really tapped into in years. Especially like some childhood things that in years, like my grandparents passing, and I wanted to remember what that felt like because I think how can I write it if I couldn't feel it, and so, um, but at the same time with sense memory, and with acting and with using that form, you're absolutely right. You can get lost in it, and um, how do you like come down from that? Do
Right.
you have downtime? So I would say that I had discussions with people that were a lot smarter than me,
Mhm.
and would say, hey, if you're going to use that for this, and if you're going to go there, then I remember I had a conversation. It was like, well, what do you do after a scene like that? I said, well, I had a cry and I moved on to the next scene. They're like, no, Derek, you can't do that. You have to, take some time. You can't just move on to the next scene, man. You're not a machine. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds kind of right.
Right.
That makes some sense. So I'm half joking, but the sincere and honest is, after pulling something like that so emotional, you kind of have to have time to replenish and restore.
Hmm.
And I learned that. And if I ever go to places like that again for something like this, then that's definitely what I have to do. I think in any art, if you're going to go to places like that, you have to take care of yourself. You just can't. You may want to go to those places, and that's the old adage of dying for your art, but you don't have to die for your art. You don't have to suffer to that extent for your art, especially or specifically not mentally.
Hmm.
You have to take care of yourself. The artist has to take care of themselves because you want to continue creating. I've never been one to use anything to tap into my art. Like I don't drink. I don't use any. I mean, I drink socially, but I don't use anything to specifically tap into my art. I just use my own memory and emotion and all that. Um, but in saying that, there's a time to do that, and you really do have to know when to back away. Go for a walk. Watch. I tell you, I watched a lot of comedy after certain scenes. That was my thing. I would watch comedy shows.
Yeah.
I would write it. I would write a heavy scene, and then I'd watch like Trevor Noah or some kind of comedy
Hmm.
show on Netflix,
Yeah.
and maybe take like the rest of the day or half of the day off.
Mm.
Hmm.
And it was like cleansing my artistic palette in
Yep.
a way, and I felt so much better after that. So that's I
That's good
hope that
advice.
answers your question.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want to say real quick, you just not a question, but just real quick, something that stuck with me since you said it. You said something very mature and advanced. I feel a bit ago about Cisco's hate, and I'm really impressed with what you said. Specifically, I see a lot of patients, and I'm going to include myself in that, who still carry a lot of hate because the trauma that they have is so they just can't they're going through the motions of processing it, but they one of the last things will be letting go of that hate. And well, I'm not going to repeat it because I want our listeners to go back and re-listen, but I
And
commend
listen to
you.
the ads, Trevor.
Yeah, and listen to the ads, and commend you. I think that's a very uh mature way to process it.
And so, Derek, what's next? What are you working on?
Oh, I'm working on some stuff I can't talk about, of course.
And that's not true. You can talk about everything here, Derek.
Talk about everything.
It's fine. It's totally fine. Titan, Paramount, they're totally cool with it.
What flavor of art are we talking about?
Right. I'm also taking do something different in January, and I'm outlining different projects that I've always wanted to do of my own.
Yep.
And so I learned a lot from outlining this novel. So I'm taking January to just outline a lot of different things. And I figure I'll have like about 4 or 5 different pieces of work between short stories, novels, and comics outlined. And by the end of January, then I can just decide what I want to do once it's all outlined. That's my own work. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm just, one thing I've learned about the Sisko book is that it was done a long time ago, but it's not like really ever done because I'm still talking about it. Of course, I love it. I'm pushing it. People are going to talk about it, and I'm happy to talk about it. So it's never. It'll always be with me. I'll always be with it. It's not linear. It'll always be around. So I'm happy to talk about it.
Well, since Derek, I'm going to speak for you here, since I think you and I will induct Trevor into Deep Space Nine super fandom after this call. Trevor, any last question here for Derek before we let him?
This is.
I was going to say ascend to the Celestial Temple, but that's too dark for me to say out loud. Go ahead, Trev.
This is a very engaging interview, Derek, and I truly
one of the year, I should say.
Yeah, I truly wish you the very, very best, and not just your career, but in life. A very positive person, somebody who's genuinely excited about their work and doing the work. I commend you, sir. This was a great interview, and you sound like a great person.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you both. I will say I loved this conversation. I loved the angle that we're discussing this book and we're framing it in. I think it's really important to talk about these things, and I'm really happy to do that with you guys because no one else has really done that. So I think this is really some important stuff, and it's fun to talk about not just the pew 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 and the Star Trek of Star Trek, but the emotions and the choices and ideas of characters and behind all that. So I appreciate that, and thank you guys for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Tell your friends. All right, Derek, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we're back. Trevor, awesome talking to Derek. What'd you think?
It was, this was an interview that I was really worried about, and I kind of stood back a bit. And because I know this was something that Don was very, very excited about. I get a
holding back a lot of people. I can see his face. No.
I got a photo from him while he was on vacation. He's on a beach and he has Derek's book in his hand. His wife and children crying in the background because he's been neglecting them the entire time so he could read Derek's book. And I'm not a DS9 person. I'm not insulting DS9. I started with it, and as I do often with things, I stop and move on. But this was really fascinating, and it's just I will agree that this is a very exciting direction for Star Trek fiction in the written form.
And I will say just one other thing to what we talked about earlier is that one of the reasons I have a liking of Deep Space Nine, other than when I was younger and watching it, is that as you know, Trevor, I worked on a film series with one of the finest actors I've ever worked with, or the finest, I should say, Johnny Lee Davenport.
The late Johnny Lee Davenport, who
amazing actor, amazing and film actor, absolutely.
Deeply miss and really enjoyed working with him. And I saw a remastered version of The Fugitive a few months ago on the big screen, and he's in The Fugitive. He's one of the members of Tommy Lee Jones's team, and he looks so young. And I'm like the one person at The Fugitive who's almost shedding a tear because I only worked with him a little bit, and that was thanks to Don. And what a wonderful, wonderful performer and wonderful person.
And I'll talk about more about him another time, but the connection here is that when we were working on our film series with him, we had this idea for a cameo, and I mentioned Avery Brooks would be awesome in this role as this crazy jazz pianist, could come in at the end. It would be awesome. He's like, oh, well, I know him. I could try to give him a call. Him? Yeah, and he tried. This is right before not too before he passed away, and I think right around COVID time. So I just in my head, I link the two a little bit because they're such great actors and so deep,
great actors.
So there's a little piece that I always think about Johnny Lee now when I rewatch Deep Space Nine, just of that connection between them, two solid actors with good voices and great presence. They both had a really amazing presence, or they have.
Yeah, in the last few years of his life, Johnny would show up in a lot of locally made films. I remember he showed up in Joy.
Yeah, he was
with Jennifer Lawrence and Robert De Niro, and he was a lawyer, I believe. Yeah, right. He's De Niro's lawyer, I believe, or somebody's lawyer, and he's only there for a few minutes. And I mean, this was what Johnny Lee could do. He made his presence known without taking it away from the other. He left an impression. Whether he was on there for 30 seconds or a minute or 5 minutes, he always left an impression.
Well, you know what? Why don't I play a short scene from Ascendance? It's a short film anthology series I did almost a decade ago. I wrote and directed this series, and Johnny Lee Davenport was such a big and epic part of the series and the inspiration for the book, which is hopefully going to come out next year. So why don't you take a listen to Johnny Lee Davenport.
Do you know what I miss the most? That moment. That moment when the stage goes dark and the spotlight shines on me. When everything that was fades to black and everything that will be ascends. When all that was reverberates back and everything that will be courses like an electrical charge through the air, connecting performer to the audience and to both an undiscovered future. That beautiful, silent, and torturous moment. And after that final moment, when silence turned to applause, I felt alive. I felt close to God.
Thanks everyone for listening. Any last words, Trevor?
Gosh, I don't think I can send any insults. I can't say anything here because we ended on Johnny Lee, and I'm like kind of a little sad.
The good news is there's more No Winston era to come. Stay tuned, subscribe, listen on all the platforms, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, and we miss you, Johnny Lee Davenport. In today's world, mental health is everyone's concern. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please use these resources. For U.S. listeners, call 1-800-950-6264 or text Helpline, all one word, HELPLINE, to 62640 or email helpline@NAMI.org. That's NAMI.org. For our international listeners, please visit suicidestop.com. That's SUICIDESTOP.com.